onto the computer. There we go. Okay. Welcome everybody to the Permissionless Software Foundation Technical Steering Committee meeting. Today is November 23rd, 2022. We are not live broadcasting this on YouTube because Zoom crashes every time we try. So we're recording this locally and I'll upload it later. Let's real quickly do some intro. Why don't you start us off, Aaron Sundman?
Hello, Aaron Sundman here. Go by Cool Cleaner on my screen. Big fan of the permissionless, the idea of permissionless innovation anyway, and allowing for individuals who want to develop but don't have a large company behind them. So the Permissionless Software Foundation brings together people like us who care about this, and Chris and I've quite a few others behind you, including Stoyan and Aaron, have built software to make it easy. And so I'm glad to be a part of this because I want to help make that happen and help the future come together with better permissionless software for everyone.
Nice intro. Yeah, Stoyan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Stoyan Zhekov, and I'm helping with maintenance of some of the JavaScript code of the foundation.
Nice.
Thank you.
And you're going to give us a demo today on the extension. Yay!
Yes, hopefully.
All right, well, let me, let's see, I'm going to turn on screen sharing so you can share later. I will share my screen and we'll get into the agenda here. Okay, so this is today's agenda. As always, it's filed on GitHub under the Permissionless Software Foundation GitHub group in a repository called TSC for Technical Steering Committee meeting. And we file them as GitHub issues and we date them. So today is today's date. And the scope of these meetings cover the major aspects of the software that we maintain, the cache stack, the pay-to-write database, the different DEXs, and then our different our governance documents. So let me give an update on the DEX. I'm really excited to wrap this up. This is when you do a one-year contract, a year is a long time. But the eCache DEX is the last part of the contract to fulfill, and it is live. It's sort of barely functional, so I'll be polishing that over the next month. I guess I should point out the dex.fullstack.cache has a new landing page. So it's a little prettier. So there's a clear buttons to the DEX documentation and then the different implementations of the DEX on Bitcoin Cash, eCache, and Avalanche. And so this is what the DEX on the eCache chain looks like. I currently don't have any NFTs loaded, but I do have some Bucks tokens listed. I noticed there's kind of an issue with the price, so I'm gonna fix that. So if you guys don't know, Bucks is a sort of a stable coin. I don't know if it can be called a stable coin, but it's a token on the eCache chain that's put out by Vin Armani's company, Bucks.digital, and it's an interesting idea in that he believes that this is regulatorily exempt because what you do is you buy, I think you buy $100 at a time, and you can buy them with PayPal or you can buy them with eCache. And what you're actually buying is not the tokens, but like a digital receipt that you then put in to mint the tokens. And so because they're not selling you the tokens directly, that's apparently what makes it regulatorily exempt, is they're just sending you, you're buying a receipt or some piece of information that you then mint the tokens by giving it to the contract on chain. And then to reverse the process, they will buy the tokens back from you at $1 per token if you want to cash out. And so interesting idea. it's never really it's conjecture until it's tested in a court of law, right? So hopefully that'll never happen. But I guess he's had incredible success in Saipan with local merchants using this. And so I definitely want to support what they're doing, and it's the closest thing to a stable coin on the eCash chain right now. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, getting pretty close to having the DEX on the eCash chain fully functional, and that's where we're at with that.
Wow, I hadn't heard that concept before. It sounds like coming up with new ways of dealing with this and new ideas. I mean, Vin's great at that stuff anyway, but that's exciting to see this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
was
it's
new
not
to me.
very, the idea is pretty, how to say, standard, because from what I read, when some tokens reach your wallet, you need to pay taxes. So most of the people, they just don't send it to your wallet. They will put it like for staking or for minting somewhere. So you don't have anything in your wallet, so you don't need to pay taxes, in fact.
Yeah,
Until you need them, of course. But
well, so yeah, let's take a minute to talk about this, because the whole thing is absurd. Because I mean, and everything you said is totally correct, and from what I have learned by listening to Vin talk, and also there is the guidance, the FOMC, is that who does one of those lettered agencies. I was reading through they really do place an emphasis on like who broadcasts the transaction. That seems to be like where the liability lies. And so yeah, if a company is broadcasting the transaction to send you stable coins, then they are a money transmitter. And so the fact that you're giving them just a piece of information and then they're taking it and minting it, that means that they're the ones generating the transaction, not you. So it does seem to do an end run around. But I mean, the reason why that whole argument is absurd is like the notion of tokens transferring or like being in your wallet, like it is an illusion. Like nothing's actually moving. All we have are private keys, like nothing's physically moving. So everything's an abstraction. So the whole concept to begin with is absurd. And then you're doing an end run around this absurd thing, which itself is absurd. So it's just, none of it makes sense to me.
yeah, but since they're charging now, so like people trying to avoid this in different ways. Like, for example, they will send you NFT, the airdrop NFT, which will represent some amount of money. So in your token, you have a zero cost NFT. So you don't pay taxes. But in fact, it's like you mentioned, represents some abstraction of some token, which is somewhere.
Yeah,
and
it's abstractions on top of abstractions. Yeah, like nothing. It's like claim if you travel with more than $10,000 into a country, it's like, well, you're not actually traveling with anything. You're traveling with a private key in your head. The money doesn't exist. It's not actually moving. It hasn't moved from one country to another. So yeah.
Is these bugs different from their what was Nuan token, the one that this Laguna is doing?
Yeah, it's very different. So Bucks is like Vin's own thing, and then Nuan is on the Lugana, however you pronounce it, blockchain, and that's Stefan Rust. So Vin's been helping with Lugana or Lugano. I can't remember. Anyways, he's been helping with their wallet, but that's totally separate. Nuan's is a flat coin. And so yeah, they're completely separate projects with nothing to do with one another.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so that's where we're at with the DEX. Pretty happy to be wrapping that up, because once I sort of can move on from that, I want to focus on our minting council and the multi-signature stuff. And possibly building a bridge for the PSF token between eCash and BCH. So yeah, that's what I really want to start turning my attention to. and also the pay to write database. That really needs a lot of polish, and it's turning into this like core piece of tech that, you know, all the dexes use it. This pinning service that I built on top of it, Launchpad is starting to use that quite heavily. And there other people have been just generally interested in using that pinning service. So that seems to be something I need to really focus on next year. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I appreciate like understanding like where you've been plus what you're looking at working on. It sounds like this is the right direction to make it more useful. Like I think one of the things you mentioned in your I don't know if anybody's watching this later had seen anything on the Bitcoin Cash conference that Chris attended, but one of the points he made was making it easier for people who are hobbyist developers, the ones that don't have a big company behind them, to make it possible for them to build without having to start from scratch and everything. And that's what the PSF really does. And I think the tech that Chris is working on next will definitely make that easier and better and make it more robust as well.
Nice. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah. Yeah, I'll give a little in the roundtable. I'll talk about the BCH conference I just got back from. So just a update on general tech. Our Telegram chatbot, it now reminds people like, hey, check the pinned message before it deletes their message. So I felt like that was like a big missing part of the UI in the, like, people just didn't understand why they couldn't talk in the channel. So so far so good. I haven't really had anybody just sort of get stuck and be like, I don't understand what's happening. Like everybody kind of either figures it out or if they're a spammer, they just kind of leave, which is exactly what we want to have happen. So pretty happy with where the Telegram bot's at. I'm looking forward to once I wrap up the DEX, we'll launch a governance token and we'll fork the bot and have it in the VIP room as well.
Excellent.
But the big thing here is the browser extension. So Stoyan, I'm going to stop sharing. Why don't you go ahead and give us a brain dump on your work with the extension, because it's been pretty awesome.
I was before with the wrong impression that extensions are in some like XML type of language, this XL, but seems this was the pretty old concept, and the current extensions are pretty much like a JavaScript. So it's very easy to create an extension. There's like just several, like about three or four files, like mandatory files. If you have them, you can have pretty much every like React application become very easy like extension. So yeah, and one of the easiest way, like the first mandatory file, like maybe even the only one, is this manifest.json, which is like a JSON file with like description of your extension, and it has several stuff inside, but this is maybe the most important one, browse an action, which is when you press the button, what you will pop up there. And you can create just a very simple like HTML page, and every time when you press this button, it will pop up this like simple HTML page. Okay. You can have many stuff inside. Before I was you can just put here some URL. Like before I was just putting here the psf.fullstack.cache, and it pop up the wallet, which is, yeah, very easy. This was in fact the original like SAMS code. There was just here the HTML http dot what was wallet.fullstack. Yeah, and you can have this here, but it's not so exciting. So I decided to make it a little better, like maybe. So I start experimenting with like first one was just to when you make like this React build, it will build for you like static sources. So if you copy them in the extension directory, you can pop up this static single page application. You don't need to access the URL itself.
Yeah, so rather than wrapping like an external site, it's
Yeah.
it's just display, it's loading it locally.
Yeah, and to do this, you can do this manually, but I just created in the scripts directory one bash script, which is doing exactly this one. It's first creating one temporary directory so you can start fresh. And after this, it just copy, it's running your build and copying everything from the build directory inside, plus some special files, which I will talk about later. And you have the extension. So how to use it when you have this directory ready, inside your extensions directory, like here, manage extensions. When you switch to developer mode, you can do some fancy stuff. And one of them is that you don't need to have like these extensions packaged like a special file. You can just directly go from some local directory. It's pretty much for development. So you just point it to this directory and you have the extension ready.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it will pop up here in your and here is the
Nice.
the browser running, which is good. There's still a lot of stuff to be done here because in fact it's creating always the new wallet, because this is not exactly the same URL, but it's you can immediately, like what I've done, I just go here to the settings and I import my wallet here, and I have the same wallet like a page and like extension.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one workaround, but it can be improved, of course.
Yeah, I noticed that with the Web3 wallet that I created there that you turn into an extension, every time you open the extension, it reloads like the library and checks all your balances, and so like every single time.
It's a completely different. Seems the code is usually here you have some URL like HTTP something, but now it's like Chrome extension. It's completely different key in this browser like local storage.
Oh, interesting.
This is I think even when you create a new version, it's again this will change and you get again new wallet.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it's not very convenient, but yeah, it's first steps.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
it's great. It's great that it renders so cleanly. I mean,
it does
without any modification.
It looks great.
And this is pretty exciting, but as I mentioned, it's just a first step. It's easy, but it's not very exciting because the thing that you want to do is to have some button, in fact.
Like connect to the MetaMask idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Local.
Yeah, because I mean, this is exactly what I was looking for as I'm looking at OwnRare. How do I make it so it's, because I don't really want to hold on to people's stuff. I'd really rather have a single button that transfers to their own wallet, that trusted works, that looks good, that works every time, that's right on their computer. I mean, it's got to work something super simple like that people trust.
The big use cases that I can see for this, which is where the big use cases when we had the Badger wallet extension a few years ago, is single sign-on, so using your wallet to sign in as a user rather than usernames,
right?
And like buy now buttons,
right.
You know, so you can display an inventory and a person can just click buy now, and then it talks to their browser extension, so you don't have to have the wallet built into your app.
So pretty much you want this button to work. When you press it, it will pay. So in order to do this thing, you need some additional magic in this extension creation, and we can go back to the original sources. So this one was the browser action, but the more interesting this content script in background. What this thing is doing, like, so there's very special scripts, this content.js and background.js. These are like the whole magic which is driving this extension. So this content.js, it's embedded in every page you open. When you have this application installed, everything you do here, it will be embedded in every page you visit. So you go to some page, the thing that you're doing there will be embedded here. And what we can do here is, for example, we can add this to the DOM. So with this simple code, we will just add to the DOM, and we can check, do we have the extension installed, and no. As MetaMask is doing this, if you see the JavaScript sources.
Yeah, that's the secret sauce right there.
Yeah, in every page, it will embed this. So if the extension is installed from your React application, you can check, do you have the extension installed or no? And yeah, so this one is going inside this white area. Every page you visit, content.js will be inside. And there's the other one, background.js, which is even more interesting. It's like you can do something with the browser itself, not with the content of the pages, but you can do something in this area above. So you can open windows, new window, browser window, do stuff like browser can do. And in order to connect these two stuff, you need to create something like a channel. This was also it's not so, but in your content stuff, you connect to something named port. And the same code, you have it also in this background.js. So they can talk to each other. So when you do something in the content, it can send the signal to the browser. And to do this, inside this content.js, you just need to add some listener. So what this do is when the content page receives some message, it can send the data from this message through the port I mentioned to the other one, and it can do something. In our case, it will open the browser, the extension window.
Okay, so is this like, if you do something on the page, it's communicating to the extension, or when you do something on the extension, it's communicating back to the page that an event happened? Is that what it's doing?
The only thing that you need, this, the message mechanism, it's like a standard Chrome philosophy. So everything in the DOM is driven by these events, the button, pressing the buttons, everything are events.
Oh, okay.
So inside your your market, for example, the only thing that you need to do is this. You don't care about extension, whatever. You just create a message event, which is a standard like Chrome Windows stuff. And you just send this whatever data you want. And when you dispatch this event, this is the sending the signal, the content code, this one, because it have this listener, it will get this event and it will post the data to the browser itself, to this script. And this script will open the window, the extension window with some parameters.
Oh, okay. So this is like the connect to wallet, like with MetaMask, there's the button that you connect to wallet and then it opens your MetaMask browser extension.
Yes. So if we do this, like for this case, in my case, I just created this pay button, and the event that I'm creating, this will reduce, it will open only my extension, because if I have several extensions, it will open all of them maybe. So you can reduce this and you can put some type. It can be like payment or it can be sign. For example, if you just want to sign, and you can have another parameters. In my case, I would just put the amount that I want to pay in the receiver.
Nice.
And so I also created a simple page which will accept these parameters. So I will send amount and the two like a part of the URL, and it will fill the form for me. So this is what I'm doing here. I'm creating this message event and I dispatch it. So the content gets this event posted via the port to the background, which is this other guy. And what he's doing is just creating a windows, the new window with this URL, like send page with these parameters. And if we try this, boom, let's see if we have it. No, because I didn't reload after the extension I installed. Press the button, the page is open. I have here the address, the amount, and I just can press send.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know.
And again, yeah. Again, it's still not ready because as you can see, it's a regular window.
Right.
It's not like this
Extension. Yeah.
yeah, this model window. But since there's some problems with the Chrome itself, they didn't allow to create like something like this one. So the people now they found some way around, like you emulate the button, and when you so this will here in the background, you will not create windows here, but you will just emulate a click or something, and it will open the model window. But I'm still working on this one, so be patient.
Oh man,
Someday.
this is amazing. This is amazing work. Like you've really connected all the dots. Like everything's here. If anybody wants to build a browser extension and a buy now button and like a single sign on,
Right.
like, everything's here.
I think the single sign on bit, that's but the buy now, the other one is being able to sign something. I mean, that's all you really needed to be able to do. And of course, remember your wallet.
Yeah. And also one more good stuff is if you install this like a package, web extension polyfill, since it will help this extension to folks. You just need a different manifest file, since there's some small differences, but how to see, if you include this polyfill before your like content and background JS, you don't need to care for anything inside these scripts. They will be the same for Chrome, for Brave, or for like Firefox. The only stuff is you just need different manifest, but it's just a JSON file. It's so easy to create, like 5 minutes. There's just some name differences between the Firefox and something in the Chrome. When you do this, it will take care for all of the differences in this content JS and background JS. So yeah, another nice piece that I found, this extension.
Very cool. Very cool.
And yeah, this is in general now the current status on the browser.
Nice. Good job, Stoyan.
Yeah, that's really cool to see. You've done an amazing job already, just showing that.
Yep. If you have questions or I don't know, comments.
Yeah, it all makes sense to me. I mean, what I noticed with the web wallet that I created when I loaded it in the browser is that I need to be more progressive, progressive web app. I need to be more like, I need to be able to detect like, oh, it's already loaded the library and it's already checked the balance. Like I don't need to do that again. Because every time the extension is opened, it tries to redo all that. And I've noticed that too when I packaged it as an Android app, it does the same thing. Because in a web browser, you just load it once. And so it's trying to do all that initialization. But it's different in the extension and in an Android app. Like it's already been initialized, so it doesn't need to do that again unless there's a good reason for it. So I need to just be able to detect that. But that's an adjustment I need to make in my React app.
It's something with keeping the state. It should be kept like some, I don't know, I'm using this now pull state, but since also it's like URL related, so
Hmm.
it needs to be some more like global way to keep this state. So when you open it in browser or in extension, it will access the same like state.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I think so in the case of the web wallet, what it's the first thing it looks for is has the minimal SLP library been loaded, and so I think I can
Yeah.
detect that. Like if that exists, then I might have already initialized, and so I might be able to like check local storage or something like that. Yeah, there must be some good way to do that.
Yeah, so there's still a lot to be done, but yeah, it's nice step
Yeah.
forward. I think I
Yeah, good
tried
demo.
to, yeah, I tried to look on different like extensions wallet. Like one was this Cash Tap
Mm.
that eCash is using. Also the Kepler, the Cosmos one is great wallet. It's this guy, it's open source, it's like multi-chain, everything needed. So I need to take more look on their sources.
Cool.
Yeah. This is all I think from me.
Thank
Okay.
you, Stoyan.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, if you want to stop sharing, I'll pick up the agenda. Man, yeah, great demo. Like I'm glad we got that recorded, because that's just, like, you got it all there. Okay, well, let me finish going through the rest of this list, and then I'll give you guys an sort of a talk about the Bitcoin Cash 22 conference I just got back from. So there's a few other tech updates. Minimal SLP wallet and minimal eCash wallet, they now they have this get transaction call that lets you get like the transaction history for an address, and before that was not sorting them. So now it comes back in by default in descending order, or you can override that into ascending order, but descending order is with the newest transaction on top. And the reason sorting is important is when you're looking at the mutable data for a token, you're going to want to look at you're going to want to start with the most recent transaction, so you don't have to go all the way through the transaction history. So this is just
Right.
about making that more efficient. And let's see. Oh, the PSF SLP indexer, there were like three little sort of, well, one was kind of a major issue and then a couple minor issues. One was there was a bug where, so every 1,000 blocks it takes a backup, and in that way, if it panics, it can roll back to a known good state. What was happening is on that 1,000th block, if there was no SLP transactions in the block, it wouldn't take a backup. And so I fixed that bug, because that was causing like a more like a cascade of bugs. That one bug was causing a cascade of bugs, in that like it would, something would happen, it would panic, and it couldn't find the right backup, and then maybe, and then it would look for another backup, and it would just get confused, and it would panic, and then it would like give up and start resyncing from Genesis, which is like worst case scenario. And so since I fixed that, it's been much more stable. And then a couple other issues were there were some of the calls to the RPC port of the full node. So the indexer talks to the full node to crawl the blockchain and track all the token transactions. So some of those would time out, and it would crash, and that wasn't such a big deal, because as long as it's being operated by Docker would just start it back up again. And then this last bug was something that just had been bothering me, but it hadn't been important enough to really deal with, in that now the indexer accurately reports the block height of where it's at. So in our last meeting, I reported that minimal SLP wallets now using this, where if when it goes to get the token UTXOs, it asks the indexer like, hey, what's your sync status? And if you're not fully synced, then any UTXOs that kind of look like they might be token UTXOs, but I can't tell because the indexer is not fully synced, it like sets those aside so it doesn't spend them by accident and accidentally burn the tokens. So that's a big part there. Oh, and I added this get started quick code example. Let's see, yeah. So on p2wdb.com for the pay to write database, I added this get started section, and it's got these just how to, this is intent. So this is sort of a trend, especially with like the React type stuff where they have this get started pages where it's like, I want to skip the documentation. I just want to get to coding as fast as possible.
Right.
And so that's the idea here, is like, this is like the minimum amount of code you need to retrieve a page of results from the pay to write database. And so each of these little sections has a code sandbox example that you can load. In fact, let me show what that looks like. These code sandboxes are really cool. They load a Node.js instance within the web browser. And they have this for React, and they have this for Node. They have this for a bunch of other things as well. And yes, you can see it's loading the virtual machine, and it's running through the script. And then this is actually a web page within the web page. So what it's doing is this is a Node.js script. It's loading the pay to write database library. It's getting a page of results. It's writing those results to the console, which you can see here. But then it also starts up a web server within the web browser, and then writes the data also to the web page. So this is actually a web page. So this HTTP part is if you were using Node.js as a web server. And they kind of, I normally wouldn't do this, but this is by default, they put this in here. So I just kind of wanted to leverage what they had. But yeah, so it's just a nice, like, you know, one click and it loads it, and then someone can get in there and start tweaking with the code right away. And it's very interactive, very low friction. So I've got code examples in here for how to get a page of results filtered by the app ID, how to get a single entry given its CID, how to get a single entry given its transaction ID that paid for the write, and then examples on how to actually write to the database. And each section has its own code sandbox, and then the minor tweak here, you just got to change the server in order to write to the eCache chain. So hopefully that'll get people more, just lower the barrier of entry to getting started with the pay to write database and start integrating into their apps. I still need to create like better videos on how to set up, and better documentation on how to configure the pay to write database, because one of the next big pieces of documentation I need to add for the pay to write database is in the setup, you tell it like how to talk to the blockchain, what service to use when you're talking to the blockchain. And like by default, it uses free bch.fullstack.cache. But you can configure that to talk to any server that you want, like Web 2 or Web 3. So I need to add, that's the next big piece of documentation that's missing that I need to add, and then add better videos for that.
Chris, is there documentation for the pinning using this pay to write database?
Man, that's a great question. I should add those in here. They're on not in the documentation. I need to add that, but it is in the README. And let's see, if you scroll down in the README, yeah, then there's a section on pinning, how to pin a CID and how to pin JSON data. So there's code examples here, but yeah, that's a great question, Stoyan. I need to add that to that README, or to the documentation I was just showing. So yeah, so looking forward to getting back to spending a little more time on the pay to write database once I get the dexes behind me. All right, well, let me tell you guys a little bit about the Bitcoin Cash 22 conference. So it was in St. Kitts. So let me just show you guys where that's at. Let's see, can I get rid of that? Yeah, okay. So here's the US, Mexico, South America, Florida. So there's this chain of islands that go all the way from Florida down to South America. And yeah, and it's in here somewhere. Yeah. So St. Kitts and Nevis are right here. And there's only like one major town on St. Kitts, Basseterre. And so this is where the conference was. And so St. Kitts, Nevis, St. Martin, which is right here, and Antigua, which is right here, they all have a lot of Bitcoin Cash adoption. It's Roger had a hand in some of it, but it's grown far beyond him. There's just a lot of grassroots adoption, and there's just signs everywhere. And Bitcoin Cash accepted here, stickers everywhere. I would say probably like 1 in 3 merchants on St. Kitts accept it. There were plenty, and I'd go in, like we'd go in and we'd be like, oh yeah, maybe that's what the town looks like. So these cruise ships, they pull up right there, and then all this army of tourists get out and they just kind of walk around town there. And this guy Sonny, who hosted the conference, he owns like several of the liquor stores on St. Kitts, and I think on several of these islands. So you can go buy liquor with Bitcoin Cash, and he's got ATMs there where you can convert. Like if you have Bitcoin Cash, you can get US dollars out, or if you have US dollars, you can buy Bitcoin Cash with it. They don't charge a fee, and at least in St. Kitts, there's no concept of like a money transmitter service like we have in the US. So like you can just do this. Like you don't have to have a special legal setting. You don't have to check with anyone. You can just do it. What blew me away about this island is that the roads are immaculate. You can eat off of them. And not that I'd recommend that, but they're incredibly clean. And the internet is super high speed, free Wi-Fi everywhere. The cell signal works perfectly, and they don't have any taxes. There's no income tax. I'm pretty sure they charge a sales tax, and they charge a really heavy import tax if you like import a car or vehicle or some big electronics to the island. They tax you pretty heavily on that. But nobody files a tax form at the end of the year. They just tax you sort of like on consumptive items as you consume them. There's no real estate tax. There's no capital gains tax. And then a big focus of this conference was citizenship by investment. So it's amazingly affordable. I think the lowest tier is like 150,000, and like a good chunk of that's going to the government. But I think it's like for 250,000, like if you buy a piece of property for 250,000, like 50,000 of that goes to the government, but the rest of it is your piece of property that you bought. And you don't even have to live there. You can rent it out, and you get a passport. And this one guy I was talking to, who owned the hotel, he had a wife and kid in the US, and he owns the hotel there in St. Kitts. So he had both a US passport and a St. Kitts passport. So even in the like the thick of the lockdowns, he was able to travel back and forth, because both countries they have to let you in if you're a citizen of that country. And I heard a lot of stories about that. Another guy I talked to, he has a Canadian passport, a Mexican passport, and a St. Kitts passport. And so that came in really handy when he needed to travel around for business during the lockdowns. And,
it seems like COVID has highlighted why, beyond just the idea of the sovereign individual having, but that countries are locking you down. And so I think that's clearer now why.
Yeah. So St. Kitts announced at the conference that they will be making Bitcoin Cash legal tender in March. I mean, so something could happen between now and then, but that's the plan. I mean, the wheels are in motion, and the idea there is like this, so unlike El Salvador, the merchants are not required to accept it, and this whole legal tender thing doesn't really matter to the people themselves. What it matters is for the citizenship by investment, being able to buy real estate, being able to buy large objects like cars. And it's all for just legal and tax purposes, really. Because right now it's awkward to buy real estate with Bitcoin Cash, because it's like you're trying to buy real estate with apples or something. It's just like odd. So it gets through a lot of that stuff, and it helps the local government because they've had a huge uptick in applications from Americans, Canadians, and Australians who want to get out of these countries and live someplace more free, like this place, which is extremely free. So they've had a huge uptick in applications, but part of their due diligence, they do like criminal background checks, and they do like financial background checks. And then, and then there's a significant amount of money, like 150 to 250,000 being transferred. And what they found is like while they are simultaneously getting an increase in applications, the working with these foreign banks to do this due diligence has gotten slower. They've gotten even slower than they used to be. And so if they can circumvent the banks by making the Bitcoin Cash legal tender, they can still do the due diligence, like with the criminal background checks and stuff. They just don't have to rely on the banks as much. And so it just makes this process smoother for them. And so I think that's the big motivation for the government to make it legal tender. And so I just find that like really fascinating. Yeah, it's just a tiny country, and they have their own little niche, and they have their own local currency, the Bahamian dollar or whatever.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and it's just getting raped by the dollar strength. It's like a 3-to-1. Like a few months ago, it was like 2-to-1, and now it's 3-to-1. And so their local currency is losing a lot of value because of just what the shenanigans that the U.S. Fed's doing around the Fed interest rates and the dollar strength. And so just like El Salvador, so they obviously they're a heavy tourist country. They looked at what El Salvador did. El Salvador did all these things for the same reason, in that they don't have their own local currency. Dollars are becoming less functional in that country. And so by switching to Bitcoin, El Salvador was able to like opt out of that whole circus with the dollar. And also El Salvador had like a huge increase in tourism once they accepted Bitcoin. So I'm sure that's also the goal for these countries, is to try and they're hoping that by making it legal tender, it'll increase tourism even more.
Right.
And it already is.
Wow.
So
That's cool to see that happening there. I mean, it does make sense to do a cash rather than a custodial type thing like Bitcoin, because I think it's just really a fantastic move for them, and hopefully they do get more, and I think they will get more tourism because of it.
Yeah, I mean, they really are looking at it as cash. That was like the theme. Like everybody kept talking about that, but it's just cash. So like you treat it like cash, you tax it like cash, for accounting purposes, it's just cash. It's not an asset. There's no capital gain. Like there's no capital gains anyways, so that's not even something to worry about. But yeah, they're just looking at it as it's the same thing as like when El Salvador gave up on their own local currency and adopted the dollar as legal tender. It's the same idea. It's just like adopting another country's currency as legal tender. I mean, and they're just looking at it as cash.
So there's an interesting thing that I didn't, if you don't do a lot of bank transfers, it doesn't seem to come up. But I had a friend of mine who worked in treasury at the company I worked at for a long time that was doing international transfers. And you would think that these things would just work.
Yeah.
But they don't just work. I mean,
Right.
And that's between the same company. Mm-hmm. Right, the same company owned by the same people. Money would get lost between them, and all you had is the string of characters that was originally defined when you created this thing. And so you'd have to track down all these transactions, and it was a horrible experience. So I can imagine if they could just get rid of that, they don't have 5,500 people sitting there doing this, right? So I can see why they're doing it, and it makes sense for them anyway. So anyway, got pics.
Yeah, just snapped a few bad photos. I just uploaded everything from my phone up here. Yeah, that's them announcing that they're going to make it legal tender. Yeah, just some of the MP Bryson. So MP is a member of parliament. He's from St. Martin, not from St. Kitts, but that guy, oh my God, what an inspiring politician. Like, he's really gone through a journey of education. He actually has got, he goes to crypto conferences and is tried to learn more. And he's very focused on, you know, all the things I just talked about the dollar hegemony kind of crushing small countries like his, increasing tourism, and so he's just very inspiring. This was there was a lot of parties. The guy Sonny who put it on, he just did such a great job. He hired buses, and there were dinners and buffets. He took us out fishing one night. So yeah, this is like one of the so everything's like there's no like big companies, there's no like you know, yellow cab that does all the taxis, you know, like it's just a free-for-all. So you never know what you're going to get when you might get a car, you might get a van, you might get an open air thing that's like playing music, you know. And Sonny did a bunch of Bitcoin Cash, a bunch of champagne bottles with Bitcoin Cash, so they were doing a champagne waterfall here.
Wow.
And, this was some of the place where I rented a moped and drove around the island. This was the Marriott. I just took a lot of pictures. I love the flora and the fauna. Every time I see something sort of unique.
So different.
Yeah, the way they do the pond, the different things. Let's see, different receipts. Yeah, okay. So this is what I wanted to show. Is like, so this is Frigate Bay. So that's a lot of those houses. Those are in citizenship by investment, like villas. They buy the villa, and then a lot of people don't even stay in them. They just rent them out.
Chris, what is the normal way to travel to this island? Like, you go maybe with your board, but what usual people, how they will go there? First to US or to?
Yeah, most people fly into Florida and then into Miami, and then they fly from there into St. Kitts. So it's like, so for me, it was a 6-hour flight or 7-hour flight from Washington State on the west coast of the US to the east coast of Florida. And then it's like a 2.5-hour flight from Miami to St. Kitts. Yeah, so you can see it's pretty pastoral. There's a lot of this is undeveloped. This is looking south at St. Kitts. And I think I was trying to capture there's the trade winds are going on right now. So one side of the island's really rough with the water and one side's really calm. So if you're in a sailboat, you anchor on one side of the island. It actually has a rainforest. A lot of these islands, they have, like, you know, it's just a mountain basically coming out of the ocean. And so there will be clouds sitting on that mountain. And there were monkeys. I saw a monkey run across. Oh yeah, there's a picture of some boats anchored out there on the calm side.
Beautiful. Wow.
You know, I'm a sailor, so I was definitely looking at the marinas and looking at it from like the sailor perspective. Yeah, there are these fruit stands all along the way, all along the road. And so you get fresh bananas and fresh coconut and fresh watermelon and like potatoes. I don't even know what these things over here on the left are.
How to see? Are they like a closed economy? I mean, all of this food is just like local, or they import something from outside? How they are going with this?
So there's a huge income inequality from what I saw in that, like, the locals, the unskilled labor is like $3 to $4 an hour. And so the locals are like really poor, especially once you get outside the town. And you know, this is a country where a hurricane comes and like wipes it out every year. And you can see there's just like all sorts of mini mansions with like nothing but walls. The roof's been torn off and everything's been blown away except for the walls or the foundation. And so all the locals, they build with cinder block and sheet metal. Those are the only two things that will withstand a hurricane. And so it's very poor. And this is why they're so dependent on tourism. I mean, tourism is like a huge boon for them, and this is why they want to bring more Bitcoin Cash businesses and more jobs into the local economy to try and push up the income for the lower income people. It's a big discrepancy between these international millionaires that are buying these villas just to get the passport versus the locals that are working for dirt cheap. But one thing I did notice that's sort of unique there is, because the hurricane comes and blows and all these expensive houses away every year, everything's in like a constant state of repair. So all the locals have lots of employment just repairing all the stuff from the last hurricane. I definitely saw that the hotel, it was just like constantly like, okay, another coat of paint, like this thing's damaged, let's fix that. And so it takes a lot of work to keep the nice things looking nice there. This was a marine like a haul out to fix boats. The only one I saw on the island. So there's two of the, so that's the main town, Basseterre, and like the two big cruise ships that pulled in there. So they just unload this like army of tourists, and then
thousands of people march on.
Yeah, so the rest of the island's pretty quiet, except for downtown. And then the downtown's where everybody makes their money off the tourists. And so there's people dancing, and there's music and restaurants and monkeys and all parrots and all kinds of crazy stuff going on down there. But it was nice to be able to, like, you don't have to go very far out of town to get some peace and quiet. And like I said, there's a rainforest. I didn't get a chance to go check that out. But some other people went and hiked it, and there's hot baths or hot springs. But that's not as nice as it sounds, because it's already pretty hot and humid there. So
sounds great in Washington or in Michigan.
yeah. I know it's been a shock coming back here to the cold weather. So that's like right downtown. And so there's all this duty-free stuff. So there's like gold and silver and diamonds and liquor and like all these things that like would normally be taxed pretty heavily in other countries. It's all tax-free down there. So tourists kind of get off the cruise boats and buy some of that stuff. Little white loon. They were all over the place. There's a Bitcoin Cash poster. As soon as you get off the cruise ship, it's right there.
What's the QR code? A big QR code on it.
Yeah. To download the wallet. This was a taxi guy who accepts Bitcoin Cash
On WhatsApp.
Yeah, and so this was a boat that we took out. So Sonny, he owned the bar, and it was like midnight, and he's like, "Hey, let's go catch a fish." So we all got in this boat, and we went and caught a big tuna. You can kind of see it here.
Oh wow!
So yeah, we went and caught a tuna, and then took it back to the bar and cooked it up. That was pretty fun. It was nice to get out on a boat.
Right.
Another cool kind of flower that I thought was unique.
Hmm.
Some of the guys, this was a representative from Antigua, and so he was there just sort of checking out what's going on, and so St. Kitts has less than 50,000 people, St. Martin has less than 100,000 people, and Antigua has less than 200,000 people. So it's kind of a doubling of population for each island. And so they're all, so St. Kitts is, because they're smaller, they can move faster, and they can they're just moving fast. So St. Martin's right behind them. They're looking to make Bitcoin Cash legal tender, and then Antigua's looking very closely on what's happening there too. So this is just more of the events. This is at the conference and me giving the panel talk. And if anybody, I posted a YouTube video to the PSF Telegram channel about my presentation, which was on our cash stack and how to lower infrastructure costs. It was very well received.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Did people come up to you afterwards? What was the I guess adoption from that perspective? Are people going, "Oh, hey, can you tell me more? How do I get to your site? How do I learn more? I saw your QR code. I didn't snap it. What do I need to do?"
Yeah, I mean, it was a little technical for most people. Like I said,
Right.
the focus was really on the citizenship by investment and the legal tender. But I definitely had people come up to me that are like, "Hey, I work for a financial institution, and we want to get into this token thing, and so we'll be in touch with you." And yeah, this anytime you talk about lowering infrastructure costs, that that catches people's ear.
Right.
So just a few more people.
So they had a photographer there doing a lot of the
Yeah,
sharing.
there were several photographers and bands, and man, it was crazy. And they had a big wheel you'd spin to win some Bitcoin Cash, like wheel of fortune. And yeah, it was pretty good stuff. I took some videos too, but I don't think I could bring them up very well. But I just rented a moped for a day and drove around the island, because I really want to go back in January. I started talking to a lot of the people about like an educational program. I think El Salvador's been really inspirational in that regard. Like they've increased their tourism, they've increased like their educational programs. I'd love to go down there and train some locals on how to uh retrofit merchant websites in order to accept Bitcoin Cash. Like a
Right.
lot of that needs to happen. And so I'm assuming we're kind of at the bottom of an exponential growth curve of merchant adoption. And so a lot of
Yeah.
these existing merchants, they have websites and they need to retrofit those websites to accept Bitcoin Cash. So
But the prompt.cash stuff is really
yeah,
fast and easy to use, and it goes directly to a hardware wallet. I mean, that's where I have it going to, I have my XPub key from a hardware wallet. It's
mhm.
really simple.
Yeah, it is really simple. Yeah, so that's an idea I'm trying to explore with more of the locals down there. I actually just sent a message to MP Bryson yesterday about that, just saying, hey, if you're thinking about an educational program or a jobs program, like I'd be happy to go down there and train people.
I think El Salvador was going with Bitcoin and some L2 like Lightning or something.
Yeah,
Will they be interested in Bitcoin Cash?
no, no, I mean, it was funny, like a lot of Bitcoin maximalists really lost their shit when they heard about this conference going down.
Oh yeah.
And they're complaining about all the Bitcoin Cash stickers everywhere. Like El Salvador itself, I don't think is hostile to other cryptos. They're just focused on BTC. And the thing is, the Lightning adoption down there, I've heard a lot of different things. Like they basically have like it's a very tightly controlled custodial system they have down there, and that's what lets it work.
Right.
And so like Americans who go down there have a very different experience than the locals do, because the locals have the local wallet that Americans can't tap into, and so it's just a very different experience. And so they're not it's just there's a lot of infrastructure there that if it wasn't there, the whole thing wouldn't really work properly. But you can go down to St. Kitts with any Bitcoin Cash wallet and have the exact same experience. Like it's
Yeah,
just
even
it's
a
just
web
it's just
wallet.
easier on the L1. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was making a bunch of those. I don't have one handy. Those laser engraved cards. I made a bunch of those, and I put like 10 cents of Bitcoin Cash and a PSF token on them, and I was handing those out to everybody, and they loved them.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
yeah, and so it's that simple. Like you can't do that with Lightning. And just be like, oh, like here, I could put like $10 on a card and give you the card, and then you can deal with that later when you have time. It takes like that fast. And so that's just an example of the kind of thing that you can do with a layer one that you can't do with Lightning. So yeah, I think whatever works, right? But that's why I found MP Bryson to be so inspiring, because he's really dug deep. He's looked at all the different technologies. He's looked deep. He's looked at BTC and Lightning, and he's reached the conclusion that Bitcoin Cash is just the best fit for his country.
That's good. If you have someone reaching out and actually going to different conferences and understanding them rather than just taking somebody like Samson Mao, and I forgot who all went to El Salvador and met with Bukele, but
Yeah.
he just took their word for it. Really didn't spend much time with the rest of it.
Yeah, and another idea I was kind of exploring with some of them, we didn't get very far, is St. Kitts is an inactive volcano. So they don't currently tap it for geopower because it's inactive, but there's new tech where they're using lasers to drill now instead of like mechanical drill bits, and so they can go much deeper with this new technology, and so there's totally a possibility of using their and I mean there's all these hot springs near the surface, so it's not that deep.
Right.
So it's totally possible for them to set up a geothermal mining facility there.
I would imagine as soon as they see some success from El Salvador on mining with the volcano, who wouldn't? Why would you not? Like, because it doesn't cost you energy, right? It's coming from the volcano. It doesn't cost you electricity.
Yeah.
You don't have to, it's almost
it's free money.
It's free money, and it's a source of like, how does your country make money? Citizens by investment, taxing people, and nothing, right? Now you have a third.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of possibilities up there. I mean, I'm gonna try and go down there once a year just for vacation, if nothing else, just to keep an eye on everything that's going on down there. It's pretty exciting. And that was just St. Kitts. I mean, that's the smallest island. St. Martin looks to be like much more dynamic. So I haven't even
if you're there a month, you'll
yet.
probably get a chance to hit multiple, right? If you do go down for a month, you'll be able to see more.
Yeah, once you're down there, it's pretty inexpensive to hop on a little plane to go from one island to the other. Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff.
Thanks for the update. That was great. I mean, really appreciated you going down and representing PSF there. And I think that having at least one technical talk is a good idea. Otherwise, it's all seems like it's it's not a technology, it's a money thing, but it really is a technology, and you can do stuff in it, and it is permissionless. So representing us was definitely appreciated.
Yeah, well, I could see, particularly like when I was on stage, I could see the crowd, and I could see MP Bryson's eyes light up when I was talking about not only is our cash stack capable of lowering costs, it's capable of like getting out of big tech and not being exposed to their control. Right. But also it's like we've always talked about, it's community technology. You can have one person running this tech to support 1,000 to 10,000 users, and so it's really good for it's community technology. And when you say that's what they have down there.
When you say 90% less, right, that means people are thinking, wait a minute, I could run 3 of them and still be still have it half the cost of running one, because 3 is way more. That's that the people aren't thinking necessarily about lowering costs. They want to have a more solid infrastructure as well.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm hoping that I'll get just yesterday I had someone reach out to me who was like, yeah, I saw the presentation, I want to know more, so I'm hoping that we'll get more of that. And it's a lot of what we talked about at the conference is not going to come to fruition for like the next year to 5 years. Like it's still not technically legal tender yet once that happens. So I'm really looking at it as a business opportunity. Personally, like I live in this sort of cold northern area. I would love to go down there in the winter and work and help them with their adoption and their growth, and then come back up here in the summer and just play in my boat up here. And
right, and you don't need to be in a particular location. You're developing, right? So you can connect all the servers to everywhere, just as if you're sitting right where you're at right now in the North Pole or wherever you are.
Yeah. Well, and it makes more sense for me to be where the action is, which seems to be down there. So yeah. So I'm excited. We'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, very nice.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's a wrap for today. Appreciate you guys taking the time. Yeah, and Stoyan, thank you for
great to hear from you.
Yeah, you too, Aaron. Glad you're holding down the fort over there. And Stoyan, thank you for the demo on the extension. Great work there.
Yeah.
I think let's continue having discussions among ourselves of like how to use this tech, like, you know, chiefly how do we make money with it? And like what like Aaron Sundman, I can see a pretty clear application, you know, for what you're doing, and Aaron Shoemaker's pretty excited about it with his VR headset work. And I am definitely interested with the single sign-on and the buy now button applications. You know, so it's pretty cool.
I expect probably in the next, I'd say week now, I'll be able to like try some alpha users. So for Own Rare. So
Cool.
I'll reach out via the Telegram group as soon as and give referral codes, because I'm requiring a referral code for any new signups in the beginning, because I want to make sure that I limit, because I don't want.
Yeah. Well, and I have a couple artists that I can put you in contact with that might be interested in listing some real artwork up there.
So my plan is to give them $2 so they don't have to have any Bitcoin Cash in the beginning, so they can mint for free, because I'm going to charge 5 cents to mint, because I really don't, it does cost something. But if with $2 you can mint 40 things for free and sell them and then make money off it, and never have to even touch Bitcoin Cash until you want to take it out and cash it out. So
Yeah,
that's the plan I have right now.
you know, I think I forgot to tell you guys shortly before I left for the conference, because it was like coming up on Halloween. What is it called? Toshi, I think it's called.
Oh, yeah.
Toshi Monster or something. I don't know. Maybe I already told you guys about this.
Yeah, little Toshi.
Little Toshi, yeah. It's like fan art, and so they had a contest to make these NFTs. So they used the NFT creator, and like probably like 10 different people were making this fan art NFTs, and they had a contest, and it was pretty cool to watch, like actual usage of this NFT creator that I built.
Yeah, that was neat. It was Aaron from Bitcoin Creations who like started that, right? Who got them onto it. I thought that was neat, because when I talked to him, he said that they started out on Smart BCH and basically lost a lot of steam when that all happened. And so he's like, hey, no, we can still do it. There's new things that keep going. Let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty cool. Okay, guys. Well, let's call it a wrap.
Yep.
Thanks.
Cheers.
See you later.